Hey everyone, welcome. Have you ever actually stopped to think about the absolute monsters lurking down in the deepest, darkest parts of our oceans? I mean, why is it that sea creatures just absolutely dwarf the animals we see walking around up here on land? Like, what exactly is going on down there in the dark? Well, today, we're exploring the fascinating source that breaks down this exact mystery in our latest explainer. Get ready, because we are going to look at the sheer, mind-bending scale of these deep-sea giants, the incredibly harsh environments they somehow survive in, and the bizarre science that allows them to grow to sizes that, frankly, just shouldn't be possible. Okay, let's dive into this. Because to truly wrap our heads around the scale here, we've got to compare the heavyweights of the land and the sea. Up here on land, we have the largest animal currently walking the earth, right? The majestic African elephant. It is massive, it's heavy, and it's completely dominant. But compare that to the biggest animal in the sea, and actually, the biggest animal known to have ever lived, period, the blue whale. The size difference here, it's not just, a little bit bigger. We are talking about an entirely different biological scale.
To really paint a picture for you, 5 to 6. That is how many fully grown African elephants you would literally need to stack together just to equal the mass and size of one single blue whale. Just imagine that for a second. 5 to 6 of the absolute largest, heaviest land animals we've got, all bundled together just to match one single creature swimming around in our oceans. It really puts into perspective how the rules of growth down in the ocean are completely, fundamentally different from the rules up here on the surface.
And hey, it's not just the whales. This is a widespread phenomenon across the deep ocean. A lot of the creatures living way down in the depths, they grow to the colossal height of a 6- or 7-story building. I mean, picture looking up at a 7-story apartment complex in your city. Now, imagine a living, breathing creature of that exact same size just swimming right past you. The sheer volume and height these creatures achieve is honestly mind-boggling. They are literally living, breathing skyscrapers underneath the waves.
And get this, it even applies to the creepy crawlies. The source points out this hilarious, but honestly slightly terrifying, comparison. The sea spiders that hang out on the ocean floor, they are so terrifyingly huge that if our tiny little land spiders ever saw them, they'd probably just pass out from shock, like faint dead on the spot. We're used to spiders the size of a coin, right? Maybe the size of your hand at the absolute most. But down there, biology just allows for these terrifyingly large proportions that completely throw our terrestrial expectations right out the window.
Which, of course, naturally leads us to ask this very important, highly scientific question. Are their moms feeding them Complan from childhood? Now, for those who might not know, Complan is a super popular nutritional drink meant to help growing kids get taller and stronger. So, is that the secret? Is there some magical deep-sea growth powder just being stirred into the ocean currents? Obviously not, but it is the absolute perfect comedic way our source questions the reality of this wild situation. So what is the actual heavy science driving this extreme growth? Well, let's move on and figure it out.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the total paradox of their environment. Think about what we just learned regarding their massive size. You'd probably assume they live in a lush, easy tropical paradise, right? Wrong. The deep sea is incredibly harsh. There is absolutely zero sunlight reaching them. There's an extreme scarcity of food, and they have to survive under crushing, literally unimaginable water pressure. Logically, these harsh conditions totally dictate that these animals should be tiny, just to survive and conserve their energy. They should be shrinking. But instead, they just keep growing and growing. So why?
So the crucial point is really found in the chemistry. It all comes down to the totally unique setup of the deep ocean. First off, the water deep down is practically freezing. Second, and this is the real key to the whole mystery, colder water is actually able to hold significantly more dissolved oxygen than warm surface water. And finally, because there's this massive, just huge abundance of oxygen trapped in those freezing depths, the creatures living there can take in so much more of it. That extra oxygen completely turbocharges their metabolism and allows for this massive, seemingly unlimited biological growth. It's crazy, but the very coldness of their environment is exactly the fuel that makes them giants.
But, chemistry is only half the story. The other half, that's physics. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast. On land, gravity is a relentless force. It pulls everything straight down. If a land animal gets way too big, its own skeleton and organs would eventually just collapse under the sheer weight of gravity. It puts a strict, hard limit on their maximum size. But in the ocean, these animals are constantly floating. The buoyancy of the water effectively supports their enormous mass, almost entirely canceling out that restrictive force of gravity. Because they don't have to carry their own heavy weight around the way a land animal does, they are physically free to just keep getting bigger.
But wait a second, what about that food scarcity we mentioned earlier? I mean, a giant body needs fuel, for sure. Well, it turns out their diet is incredibly efficient. When they do actually find food, they do not mess around. These giants sustain themselves by eating large fish entirely whole. Yep, just one massive gulp, and boom, they've consumed an absolutely enormous amount of calories in a single swift effort. Their eating habits are incredibly effective, basically taking full advantage of whatever high-value prey happens to cross their path in the dark.
Which brings us to a final, highly relatable piece of social commentary. The source ends this fascinating scientific deep dive with a brilliant, totally deadpan observation. While these majestic sea creatures are efficiently swallowing massive fish whole and living their absolute best giant lives, look at us. The source jokes, we eat so little, and even that is adulterated. Kali Yuga, brother, Kali Yuga. Now, for context, Kali Yuga refers to an age of vice, hypocrisy, and impurity in Hindu philosophy. It's just this hilarious grievance, contrasting the pure, unadulterated, highly efficient diet of the deep sea with the tiny, processed, and often chemically altered food we humans deal with today. It really makes you wonder, maybe the ocean giants actually do have it all figured out. So the next time you look out at the ocean, ask yourself, what other massive ancient secrets are hiding down there in the cold, dark deep?